All right. First item analysis conference ever.
This is history in the making.
All right. So the first thing I would say is, wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed.
Thank you for finishing all of that. 68% of your students, basically 70% of your students would be proficient on the Try 3 exam if you quit teaching today.
Right.
Which is
decent.
That's great.
Right.
That means you're really set up to have a high proficiency rate.
Right.
So we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Why so successful? Just a real quick reflection.
I mean, I have to give credit to like the way our curriculum is set up, because the spiral allows us to hit on things and come back and hit on things and come back. In addition to building off of what they did in years past as well. So I have to give credit to the curriculum first, of A, the way it's set up, and B, the way it just kind of continues off of what they did in third grade. And second of all, I would have to say the intentionality behind discussion questions, the intentionality of knowing what misconceptions are based off of previous years or just based off of day-to-day data and assessments. But I also think just having, I don't know, like a little bit higher expectation in math, just because like that's kind of, I feel like it's my baby in a sense, or it's just kind of my area. And so I don't know, I often push maybe too hard at times in terms of just the rigor of it, or just like their thinking or their understanding.
Well, yeah, and I think you understand the target so well.
Right, the end goal.
That you're able to monitor, push them further,
right,
or adjust accordingly, which is powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I also I allow them to be integral in the sense of like how like I want them to be successful. So then like I allow them to be a part of like their learning. Like I'll say like, this is a 5th grade thing. Like, so we're going to talk about it even because you're ready for it. Like I allow them to be like a part of like their learning, and if that makes sense. So
accepting that challenge.
Right. Like if they're ready for it, like why not push them that way? So
good. So the first one were, what were the standards and questions you expect the students to do well on? You talked about, go ahead.
Right. The fractions and decimals. Just because, first of all, I love to teach fractions. I just think it's just because I hated it so much as a kid and I didn't understand it. And so just even through learning about fractions and through Van de Waal or through Pizzas and Pies, like I have a better understanding of it. And so it's like my mission and goal to change perspectives of fractions. But then also like it's so like we make it so contextual. We put a lot of models into it. And so I feel like that really concrete thinking like sets a really nice foundation. Right. And then once they master that, then we can go on to a little bit more rigorous in terms of solving. But yeah, comparing fractions and decimals, I think just again, the way that like Marilyn Burns or just some of the models that we have, like being able to take those and share them with kids. And I thought multiplicative comparison, just because we did so well on Try 2.
Yeah.
But
so let's reinforce comparing fractions and decimals. They did well. Your predictions were right.
Yes, those ones were correct.
You felt like you were going after it, and it was correct. And what you're doing is obviously working.
Right.
So that's a celebration.
Yeah, and I think also because we kind of did like a bell work warm-up planner, and like we were continually hitting that, and I feel like we didn't do that as much at the beginning of the year. Like I'm just thinking long-term. Like I like that idea of
that spiral planner.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just spiral curriculum, but spiral planning as well.
Yeah. Good. So multiplicative, comparison kind of gave us some different information.
Yeah, it's that situational versus solution, and which is a new concept to me. I'm not a fan of it, but again, like Mariah kind of talked me down. And just terms of like that's just the Common Core. Like that's just how it is. Like it's just they understand the action versus how you're going to solve it. Like, and I think and she's described it as just them really understanding what's going on in the problem. But I think my biggest thing was like they got the answer right, but they just didn't choose the right equation. So I know they understand what's going on, but it's just not understanding the situation. So it's like kind of a comprehension thing. So
good. So reflect on that. I think you're getting there. Is it your understanding situational or solutional, or how new it's been?
This was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that this was like a new not maybe 4 weeks.
Okay.
And so when we retaught multiplicative comparison, because that was focus 11 or whatever, like I had this new learning, this new understanding of it. And so then I approached it that way with students, and that was kind of the question is, okay, well, what's going on in the question? Like, what is the situation? What's the action? And really getting into like that first step of problem solving, like understanding the problem before you make the plan. And so because what I would see is that they would understand it. Oh, okay. And then like their plan wouldn't really match their understanding, or they didn't understand it, so their plan was not correct.
Right.
So still arrive at an answer.
Still the correct answer.
Right. Which, yeah. So we still need some tailoring on that. But
yeah, I mean, I think your data shows on those that kids are getting the correct answer.
Right.
So they're understanding the problem. They're just not understanding that concept of situational over solution.
Right. And Mariah and I talked about how that foundation will change because you're starting it at second grade.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and this is a new thing that this class is not really right. So, yeah, which is fine.
So let's dig into that, because you had 2 of your questions on those problem types were 80%. And then the other 2 were 40 in the 40s and 60s, right?
Yeah.
68 and maybe 4. So what happened on question 8?
And they're 13. The exact same problem type,
okay. Yep.
Which we realized. And so they're both, you have to use division to solve them.
Okay.
But the way the question is worded is how many more times. And so you're looking for that middle number as to what are you multiplying the first number by. So like 51 and then times 3 is 152. So how many more times? 3 times more. So then the situational is the multiplication problem. So that's right. But my students are all picking D and either C or D, but mostly D.
So what is the student's misconception?
I mean, I'm guessing exposure to these types of problems. And I'm also guessing that, again, that they know they have to do division, so then they just assume division. But I think it is just exposure to, like, we only did maybe 2 or 3 days of this.
Because you said something there. You said it says something about...
Oh, how many times more?
Times more.
And this one says how many times taller.
But then they have, instead of times, they're not multiplying.
Right, that's the situation.
That's the situation.
The solution, you have to divide the numbers, unless you know how to skip number.
So they were choosing how they would solve it.
Right. They for both of these, they chose the solution.
Okay.
Even though the directions say that best fits each situation.
Okay.
So I think it's just a matter of...
You talked about how you're going to address this a little bit in your actions.
Right.
So you're going to really key on that problem type.
Right, just each, because there's 3 different compare problems. So like going after one individually first.
Okay.
And then really just, talking about understanding it versus situation versus solution. And how some problem types, like the situation and the solution, are going to be the same, but then there are some out there. And again, that's more of a, also for that. But yeah, I think and then being able to blend it. I think I said, and then integrating back in together. So having a blended group, and then that would be an interesting share time, I think.
So what I hear you saying with this action step is reintroduce it, more exposure, and then really dig into those 3 different types of compare problem types.
But then keeping in mind the solution situation for every single one, and just letting them know that there are, you're going to come across problems that, like, the wording of the question and the information given, like the situation, is going to warrant a different situational equation.
Okay.
Crazy.
Good. All right. Well, I think, is that helping them? Obviously they're getting the right answer, so I don't know how much.
And that's where I get
like
frustrated. It's like I see that they understand it. Like these are and like it was like some of my advanced kids, like my people people like Jocelyn, who like has done very well, will always do well in math, but she gets it wrong. But like I know her, I know she clearly understands that problem.
Right.
So that's when I get like, oh man, Common Core. Like I had a beef with it last night.
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing at second grade, because we are starting with second grade now, is that we're hoping that they're visualizing
what's going on,
the situation,
right,
and then matching the equation to it. Where right now, kids have been doing this for almost 3 years.
Right.
We're kind of undoing some things.
Right, and I just wonder, like,
is it
what the merit? Yeah.
Is it worth it? Yeah. I think we just have to monitor that. And,
right.
And you know, in your planner here, you have some ideas of practicing and going back and reteaching that. So I think we have to monitor it with those on-the-spot assessments.
Right.
And then maybe get back together and say,
$100.
okay, I've turned this around. We're on the right track. Or this might be causing more harm right now.
Right.
I'm gonna let it go with this class this year.
I think that's kind of what happened when I introduced that situational solutional. Like it almost was like everything kind of just went to crap. And then once we had some conversations, it was like, oh, okay, I see this.
Okay.
But some of them still just kind of felt.
Year, and then obviously we'll start next year differently.
Okay.
So, okay. Good. So another question they struggled on was question 9, which was this.
Right. The two different.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, there really wasn't one that was like a standout. And there were 2 students I remember distinctly, like they had circled bits and pieces, like they were just going to piece it together how they thought it should go. And most of them had circled this. And so I had a conversation. I said, well, what do you know about 900? Okay, well, that's the goal. Okay, well, what is this collected? That's how much they've collected. I said, so you're saying that they would add those 2 together? And they're like, oh, no. Like they want to get up to 900.
Right.
And so then that like immediately was like, oh, I'm not going to need the one with the plus in it. But they knew they had to divide. So with those 2 students, it was just a matter of like going back in, understanding. But I also think like with this one, like it would still work because like it's 3rd grade had 235 and that number was 5 times more than what the 4th grade had. So technically C does work, but it's not fitting the situation. But then, so because it's not saying how many times, you know,
as represents the situation.
Right. So my students who fit this, I was like, I see that you understand the question and you're trying to fit the situation. So it's back to that situational solutional one.
So, and is this multi-step?
Yes. Okay. 3 steps. Right.
So in your action steps here, you talked about a couple different things. Going back to that hidden question activity from the wall.
Like I thought about that because I feel like we started off at the beginning of the year with that, but then I just wonder how I could blend those 2 things together, like the hidden question along with the situation, like what's going on.
Okay.
So because I put that in there because I remember that was like the big thing last year with multi-step was this hidden question activity.
Right.
So I thought about somehow integrating those 2 together in a sense.
But are you still unclear on that, or how's that?
Well, I am.
Okay.
Because like I know that was helpful, but then now that we are again, like that's what I get confused about. Is like if the student does this equation, they're gonna still do division, but they're still gonna arrive at the same answer. So I don't know. That's why I just get really like it gets muddy.
One thing that we've done with 3rd grade on multi-steps in 2nd grade is creating a table. Right,
and I've done that. I did that with Amy last year.
Okay.
Was making that table of like, what do I know? But I think it was more of just changing the dialogue of those questions.
Right. So tell me about that. What's that mean?
So, and when I did an activity like recently, and it wasn't what do I know? What do I need to find out? It was what is going on.
Right.
Like what is happening. And it like, because a lot of them, they understand that they're 2 steps.
Right.
Like they see how long it is and they're like, okay, this is going to be a lot of work. But I think, yeah, it's just changing the dialogue, but then putting in like the 1, 2, I don't know, then I struggle with that because I don't want to like just hand them like a
formula.
Right. Like something that like this is every time you're going to, like, I want them to be able to know that these questions are multi-step and not have to provide a table. Like I would either want them to make the table themselves or
right.
shoot out the steps by themselves. So yeah, that's where I mean, and maybe at first, like we start with that and then I just scaffold and then take it away. But
so, because what would the table do for them?
Organizing their thinking and just knowing that it is like you have to do it step by step.
Right.
And then it brings in that like what equation are you going to use to solve what label you need. And I think putting that label part in there helps them with what's the action.
Right. So that's going a step further than what do I need to know and what do I
right.
It's because they have to really know that.
Because I feel like
to complete the table, right?
Because those are things that they get it. Like, yeah, I know some of the stuff.
Right.
I know I'm missing things.
Right.
Like I feel like that's very baseline now.
Right.
And so now taking that what they're coming in with or what they are very foundational with, and then just taking it a step further. Okay, yeah, we realize we have information, we realize we're missing stuff, but okay, what's going on with that information?
Right.
What are we going to do with it?
Right.
So
in that what's your problem book,
yeah,
there's a whole section on creating a table or
right.
graphic organizer.
Right.
So I think that might be, and I think the hidden question idea and the entry point of those easier numbers are these are all really good action steps. I just wanted you to think about that as
making a table, right? And we have in the past, and I think I got away from that. And then this last time when it came back up, it was like, we need to bring this back out and just realize that this is
right.
Like it's methodical insights. So. And
you're so good at your share times and sharing. I think you'll be able to show them, well, this group of kids made a table. These groups of kids didn't. You don't always have to make one. This is just a tool to use.
Right. But I'm just noticing this same information is exactly what so-and-so did in their table. And I don't have to have the table as long as I'm still very clear in my communication of the steps.
Okay. So let's go over to 10 and 15, which
the 2-digit.
We're pretty high.
Right. It wasn't pretty terrible
high percents,
for something that is it doesn't come until the second half of the year.
Right.
Just because they need that foundation of place value and things like that, which I think I put that on here. But yeah.
So you're gonna go back to the rectangular array.
Right. Really push that because I have kids who are like, oh, I don't need it. And then they only do, instead of 4 equations, they do 2 equations. They just do the tens times the tens and the 1 times the 1s. Okay. So that's the biggest misconception. The other one is just being accurate. Yep. That was the other big downfall. But yeah, just this game target 1,000, where it's just multiplying by a single digit number by a multiple of 10. And so just getting that using basic facts, but then it's going to be 10 times greater. So 2 times 30, I can use 2 times 6 to help me, but the answer is 10 times greater because 30 is, So, which they are really strong with. And so then they don't just say, oh, I added a 0 or whatever.
Right.
So I think bringing that back in maybe during some bell work, just kind of playing that and getting back into those basic facts and things. So, yeah.
Okay.
I put that in there just to kind of leave a note for myself that would be a good way to bring that back in, in terms of accuracy.
And then on here, you had said biggest priorities going forward, NBT 6.
And that's I had put that on there.
Okay.
And I had it on here. I think that was just a late night error, and I never put it on there. I took it off because it was
76%.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're okay on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was one of those but I was well, maybe not.
Okay.
And I think I can hit those things within multiplicative comparison within multi-step.
Right.
And just doing those. I think I put that on with mixed computation. Somewhere I wrote something about mixed computation.
You put it here. Was this 6 or was it?
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. And then I think I put it on. It was. I think it. Oh, the final page. It was something about like and like just utilizing mixed computation. So then I'm still hitting it, but it's in like a different.
Oh yeah, I did.
Oh yeah. So just having.
Okay.
Oh, right here, multi-step and single-step problems with mixed computation, and
Okay.
I put heavy on division just because we were 80% or above. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Let's go back to this just real quick and make sure all of these steps
Are put
Yeah.
into there. Right.
So all these action steps that you've articulated are back in here.
Okay.
So I don't know. Do you need to see those side by side, maybe, or you want to pull it up?
Yeah. I can pull it too. Well, and right now we're doing like geometry.
Right.
So we're gonna
I saw that you were working that in
right
here.
So that will be this week. Yep.
Right.
And then next week we'll be done with that.
Right. Because you say this target. Maybe it's on here. Like this target game.
Oh yeah.
Where is that going to come?
So probably here. I could do that maybe like one
for Bella
for the first couple of days, and then kind of
you want me to add that to the plan?
Yeah, I can put that, and maybe before, so then I know to do it earlier in the week.
The other thing I was going to ask you, was it called
1,000? Yep.
Okay. What do we need to add another column in here for like that math intervention time? That's on.
Oh, because I put that in there.
You're just
just
combining it there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, that's because I just put that like taking this information and then knowing that is what I would need to pull that week.
Okay.
For small group.
Perfect.
I kind of put that.
You're combining those two.
Yeah,
things.
I just
okay.
Knowing that that's probably what I'll be doing that week.
Okay. Good. So we got the comparison problems captured in there real well.
Mm-hmm.
What about this table and hidden questions? We capture that.
So that would be later in May. I don't think I put that. Yeah, that would be like these last 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I.
So do you see yourself doing more investigation on that, or addressing that through intervention and number talks? Where do you see yourself doing that?
I think during the first, because I just put really broad
Right.
multi-step work problems.
Right.
I think in that point I would do more of these, like these steps of like changing that internal dialogue and being really intentional of listening for that, but then making sure students are precise and like as they're explaining their thinking, and probably like these easier numbers, and then just kind of see how and probably use the table too with the change of the questions. And then I think from that week, seeing how things are going.
Okay.
And then probably.
So this would be that. I'm gonna put that internal dialogue.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that would be what I would focus on those first couple of days, is trying to get that situational dialogue going.
Right. And I think I would challenge you even just a little bit more on that, change the internal dialogue of, I like the idea of internal dialogue, but then what problem solving strategy am I going to use to attack this problem? Am I going to act it out? Am I going to visualize it?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Am I going to make a table?
What's your plan? Like the plan part of it.
The plan part of it.
And the execution of the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because right now it seems like, I mean, once again, they're getting a lot of correct answers.
Right.
So their plan is getting them really close.
Right. But then thinking outside of just writing equations, thinking about, like putting in easier numbers or let's say drawing a table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to capture that on here too, which, should I just put plan or how?
I think just like a variety of plans.
There you go. Variety of problem solving.
Yeah.
Okay. And this rectangular array model, capture that somewhere in here.
That is up, well, because we started, I don't think I did as an intern. Well, I have it here for bell work, and then, or no, number talk, getting some strategies, and then seeing how those strategies transfer over with some bell work, and then kind of see who still needs some help there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I had some, I bring it back here. And I think that's when I put with this mixed computation, like putting in, because like kind of bringing back in with like using area in terms of a context.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I meant by that, was just mixed computation, bringing in some of those two digit by two digit. So
capture that on there.
yeah.
So that's the rectangular array, right?
Right. And then just noticing when students who are, I mean, because I have some who don't need the rectangular array.
Okay.
So yeah.
Put area on there too.
Nope. Because you capitalized
There you
it.
go, that's right. Okay, good. How you feeling?
Good. I mean, I expected good results.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that some of them were going to be, just because I knew they were just ridiculously hard questions. I mean, in terms for fourth grade, they were very high level, end of the year fourth grade stuff.
Right.
And I know I have some kids who are still like back in October in terms of fourth grade years. So, but I was really impressed with Lexi and Chris, especially Lexi.
Mm-hmm.
She's just so like precise. Like she does take her time, and like sometimes I worry it's because she doesn't understand it, but it's just because she's being very thorough, and she's being very accurate, and that helps so much, so much. So I'm interested to see in terms of what I was with her. Yeah, sorry, I added this.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Just because that they were shocking to me. Juan, just missing it by the 1 point. And I looked back over his, and there really wasn't any like leeway. Like there wasn't one that he like was so close. Like it was just like he missed it completely. But with Marissa and Jaden, Marissa, I know it's like an attention.
Sure.
It's an attention thing.
I guess I like this idea, and I think maybe we should add it to maybe like approaching or something.
Right,
like that.
or just kind of like it was almost like a flag. Like I mean, Juan is approaching, but he's also been proficient advanced all year as well. But with Marissa and Jaden, it was like not like approaching, but it was like a flag in my mind. Like there's something missing.
So I guess my last question would be the action steps you've articulated here, and then in your planner, a lot of this is core. But you mentioned getting after small group here.
Right.
So these kids fall into that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Like in terms of.
So they're going to fall into this work.
Like like there's something isn't, and I don't know if it's just like a focus thing or I think it's more of like understanding the situation. So I think the ones that they struggled with were the multiplicative comparison and the multi-step.
Okay.
So I think it's a matter of confidence. Two, it's a matter of accuracy. But I think with Jaden, like she's always been like weaker with multi-step, and so I think the math is there. Like she's a very strong mathematician in terms of computation. So I think it's just like the word, like the comprehension of the problem. And same with Juan too. It's just that piece of that. But
but I also think I heard you saying before was you're gonna reteach some of this.
Right. Also, like during small groups
in the core, and then you're gonna bring that back down to their small group. And do some focus instruction with them on some of those strategies for multi-step or that internal dialogue,
or even or just like even a one-to-one,
right? Like
because with Marissa, that's what happens with her. Is it just needs to be a one-to-one conversation. And I think with Chad also, like he's most of the time strong, but he was having some issues. So and it's just I think it was just one of those things that I know they can do it, but
so you have that built in your schedule, I guess is my final question.
Right. Like I would take some things that like I'm noticing from their bell work or even from what I see in their investigation, and then just kind of say, right. Okay, you're missing this, so let's get around.
Okay. I think we have a plan.
Okay. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Good.